understood as moderator of this session, the major crisis right now is time, right? So I'll not extend my speech on this. I'll directly call Roshan Raj Shrestha here from BMGF Deputy Director, and he will start the session. We'll have 10 to 15 minutes time. I request for all the panelists so that we have some space for question and answer that we missed in the last session. Thank you very much. Roshanji, please.
Hey, thank you so much, Roberto. So, good afternoon, and very nice to be here. Sunitaji, thanks for inviting me, because first time I tried to come here many times when Suresh was here and unable to join, but very much fortunate to see such a beautiful campus. And also very nice to see all colleagues, because I haven't seen many colleagues for many years because of COVID. Arne, so it's a good time to meet all of you. And I don't know what should I talk, because what I put it here, you all know. This is my problem now. So, but what I talk that, what I am really feeling in this, non-serious scientist. And yesterday also, I asked our colleague, Dipender, hey Dipender, what to talk? And Dipender, bolo kya hai, kuch nahi. So he just talk about a little bit, give some idea about non-serious scientists and how I'm thinking about. So that's why I'm talking those points. Where is the, okay. So this is Bible, everybody know that the problem is there. That's why we need to speed up, because even after 2030, if we go like the same pace, we will not be reaching more than 65% or 6% of safely managed scientists. That's why speeding is very much crucial. And this is another, we always show this picture, but we can always translate with different meaning. Today, we all talk about why we need sewer system and non-sewer sanitation, all those things. These pictures give very good, clear picture that by 2030, if we go, then there will be only less than 20% of sewer city will be in South Asia, including India and all South Asia and Southeast Asia. That's why we need to have some different approaches how to address this issue, because more non-sewer sanitation means, of course, we need to be happy that we will be less consuming water, but at the same time, we should be also worried, because number one, of course, this is because of this, we are releasing a lot of these climate-related gases, so that need to be mitigated. So non-sewer sanitation really produce those things, that how to really manage that. And water, of course, they already told. And at the same time, on-site sanitation, decentralized sanitation need a lot of work. It's not much more than the sewer system, because people need to be engaged there. Government need to be engaged there. That's why we have also challenge as well. I just got this news yesterday. I was just browsing email, then I got this email from FSMA. Exactly what Sunita was saying, that how difficult it is to get sewer connected. One of the consultant team, they were in Lebanon a couple of months back to do the analysis for the fecal sludge treatment plant to be established in the wastewater treatment plant. And what they found that wastewater treatment plant there, sewer is not connected. And because of all the rationing, there's no money also to build a sewer system. And it's not only Lebanon, this is the problem of many other countries as well. Even India also may have some country state that problem. I was in Coimbatore a couple of years back. Then sewer connection was very much less, although they have a primary sewer line, trunk sewer line there, wastewater treatment plant is there, but lateral connection is not happening. So all those problems we're seeing also in Dhaka, for example, we're talking about sewer system since last 20 years, not really installed. So all problems are here. That's why sewer is not really easy. And of course, the planning is also another big issue that we really need to consider. I got this slide from Suraj. So this is something interesting, that a lot of sewer projects still designed by the large projects, especially from the World Bank, ADB, all they are making the sewer project, but they hardly think about a non-sewer component. For example, if you see the right-hand picture, they were almost going to plan for the sewer system for that particular town, And then we are now providing some technical assistance that how can they make the project more shoe-wise approach and non-sure approach. Then our team went there, Suraj and other colleagues went there, and they analyzed. Then they really did very great job. The non-sure area also identified and covered, and they included in the project. So planning approach is really need to be seriously thinking about from our all our team and colleagues who are working in the sector. This is also standard picture. We can talk hours, days on this. So for example, now, when we see this scientist and value chain, where the problem is now, we need to really identify where the problem is. Everybody is still focusing on the FSTP component, this last, this part, treatment part. Everybody talking about FSTP. Even this morning, we talk more about FSTP. Is the solution, FSTP is a solution, or we go with the containment? So without containment improvement, we will not be bringing the sludge, and then the FSTP, whatever you construct, that will not be operated. So we know that if this containment standard is very bad, and all over the region, even the South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, everywhere, containment is a problem. How can we really address this containment issue so that the sludge will be collected, and then it will bring, the sludge can be dislodged regularly, and then bring the treatment plant? And in many countries, not India, but many countries, this truck is a problem. Because, you know, if you just go to Bangladesh, if they need to procure truck from India, they need to pay more than 30, I don't know how many percent of tax, Muid. How many percent? Muid and Hasin. To buy the truck from India to Bangladesh, how many percentage need to pay tax? 30%? Yeah, 30, 40%. So same thing also in Nepal, if they need to buy, same expensive. So how can we really bring this product as a green product? How can we do lobbying for that? So it's still not really happening. And then when you go to treatment again, so many different types of treatment system is really established. And we have to really see the quality of the system, standard of the FSTP. Of course, gray water component is critical, but we are not, because we are not advocating for gray water, but that doesn't mean that gray water is not important. Gray water is equally important. We are not advocating for gray water. B means Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We are focusing more on fecal sludge component is because it has all disease-causing bacteria, pathogens, all are there. If we can really manage that, the pathogen will not be spread out so that the disease burden will reduce. But if you see at a pollution point of view, of course, we need to have environment pollution point of view, we must need to add this gray water management as well. But in gray water management, there are a lot of technology already available. So a lot of standard technology is available. We already discussed this morning that technology is not a problem. Problem is approach. Problem is the governance. And then what we are working here, that inventing that new toilet, that toilet, if we really promote, maybe we don't need sewer system at all. We don't need dislodge at all. So this is what we are working deeply. At the same time, we are working in the other treatment system called fecal sludge, omniprocessor, and which actually is not a biological system, is the thermal treatment system that really addresses a little bit problem what now we are facing from the current biological system. And this is something, I don't want to go detail here. These are technology that already almost available. It will come to market, but technology is not again solution, because technology, how you really promote this technology, it needs behavior change, it needs many things. You need to economic analysis, lot of things need to be done, but technology is there. We need to really bring that, but we need to create enabling environment to bring this technology. Srikant is here, who is working deeply on this G2RT, geogenetic technology. If you need to understand more, this Srikant will tell you. Jaya, so you know, you have already working with this, what is it called? Greenfield, no? So testing already, they already did that, they already piloted that, successfully working. So this technology, if we really bring it to market, then we can do a lot of problem solving in non-sure sanitation, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It needs several years. And also we already discussed about all sort of FSTPs are in operation. They are a biological system, they are mechanical system, they are thermal system, but you can see that how different varieties are there, right? And then some system, they are not really receiving the sludge. That's why it's like dry. Some places are full sludge. That's why it's overloaded. Some places very beautiful because it's not receiving sludge. That's why it's beautiful. So that's why you can't really see and then, oh, okay, this is great. No, It's not great because yeah, the system is not really getting the accurately adequate sludge. That's why you make it part. That's why all things are you need to really verify. But at the same time, I really like the system maybe my colleague Santosh, where's Santosh? Santosh not here. Santosh there. Tamil Nadu, they have really built nice system. This is the mechanical system, and then this treatment of effluent, treatment of the leachate from the sludge, and that's really helping to see that how much land can be reduced by just installing the screw press. So that example also there. So that's why technology is not the problem. So yes, sir. I got from your dissatisfaction. You are very angry that no, this is not really good. You are true. I fully agree with your email that you sent to Sakshi and Sunitaji, right? A lot of things true are there, right? But the thing is, why is happening? We need to identify. You see the price, very price, no? But there are reasons. You can see the all red one. This price so high. Why is it high? Because first we need to understand how the treatment plant cost really put it there. Did we itemize that cost? Because most of the projects run by the ADB, World Bank, all those things, what they do that, they put all components in one, like a treatment plant. FSTP is built, they put road also, the access road is also there. They have the big laboratory facility also there. They have a building for the everything there. That's why the cost looks very high. So you need to itemize that, right? Yeah, others. And they put in the FSTP, then it's not justifiable, right? Similarly, now other thing is also, it's not only the bank's problem. Problem is from our side as well. Because if you go to city, they want to have a big system to be installed. So that problem is also from the project management team as well. They need to really check that whether they need that system or not. And that's why the cost is going to be varied. We need to really work detail and analyze and identify where the problem is. And which is actually really working with CSC in the near future to identify all those problems. And this is another good example from the Indonesia. They run the project for 20 years, tiny mass project. Billions dollar they invested for decentralized wastewater management system. And right now, after 20 years, and they evaluated, you can see environmental quality means if the system is not really working. Here, I want to remove this here. Okay. You see, environmental quality means the system is not performing well, right? And the system is managed by the community without connection with the government. I mean, that's wrong. Because Mati sir said that because Mati sir is successful because he is managing and giving that right task to the self-help group. That's why they also monitor capacity building happening, and that's why they are running properly. But in Indonesia, without any institutional framework, they just hand it over to community to design and build everything. Now, after 20 years, billions of dollars finished, but they are not getting the right services, right? And it's not going. No. Yeah. So this is also very good lesson we need to learn from Japan. Sometimes we say that Japan is advanced. No, not. Advanced country also important for us to learn, right? Because they also pass through all the problems that what we face. If you see here, is all these peaks are all when they have sanitation problem, right? And slowly they have, because of this learning, they started this standard formulation, all those things started only here. And because of that, you can see the disease is totally suppressed, all because of their way of implementation project, the regulations, policy in place, right technology started, and that's why they improved. But it took also 40 years for them to improve their situation. And you can see here, like they also pass through all the things that what we are doing, and many countries they are facing, right? So time, of course, it takes time. And this is another interesting picture we all need to understand. Whenever we go, engineers go to the Japan to learn and see the system, everybody run behind this one. Everybody, oh, Jokasu. Jokasu is not this system to success, right? Why Jokasu is successful? Ravi is laughing. Why Jokasu? Because all these things. They first come up with the technology, And before bringing technology, they also put the Jokaso Act. You see, Jokaso Act is like an on-site sentence act. But where is our act, right? We have FSTP, but where is the act to control that? So this is something we need to learn from Japan. It's wonderful. They have the all three, four types of, the separate act and policy there for the service provider, for the maintenance, for the even construction of those things, everything there. That's why system is not failed. And when you implement it, people are really using properly. Service providers there who really implement and dislodging, all those things happen only because of all act and regulation. Now where we need to really focus on. Malaysia is same example, more or less same approach they did. And their primary focus was on on-site sanitation first. And then incremental progress from trenching to advanced treatment system. It also took 30, 40 years for them. That's why we don't need to worry that we are really running, but we don't need to spend 30, 40 years because we just need to learn from them and we can go in 10 years, everything can be solved. And the most important for the Malaysian learning, again, this regulatory body. The way how they establish span and the way how they regulate to the India Water, who is the service provider, the way how only one authority is responsible for these services, that is the main reason behind for the success of Malaysia. And that's not really happening in many parts of the world, especially in developing countries. And this is something is very important to learn from all of us, because we all are here from the different countries in this region, right? So why can't we also do the way how SOAS, Eastern and Southern Africa Water and Sanitation Regulatory Association, they call SOAS. So why not South Asia start to lead? This is the government to lead that, right? So if CPOHA can lead for this, other countries also join. We can also establish one South Asian level regulatory body under the leadership of CPHO. Why not, right? So let's discuss on that kind of thing, and let's come up with some idea. Then you lead, we support, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this is not infrastructure. This is all policy regulations where CPHO can do a lot, right? And that's why we are not really promoting the fecal source management. We are promoting citywide sanitation, where this is the public service approach, government to be in front, and our focus should be here, not here. Of course, equity, safety, sustainability is our goal to achieve. But to achieve that, we must need to have this function to be in place. And function to be in place means only government can do that. No one can do that. And government will be strong on this side. And for that, what we are doing is we have to create a couple of platforms. For example, we established one AIT as a global science center, global water and science center. And they are helping, especially to the bank, how the bank really will not mislead and they will plan properly, providing technical assistance to them. We are working with them. Generally, they are also helping us to introduce or establishing laboratory facility or supporting capacity in the laboratory, because they have the accredited lab working for this ISO certification and so on. So they will help, and we are discussing that on 28th. AIT also partner, and we will also create our own network in India to work on this. So many components are there. So this is for the region. At the same time, I'm finishing the work. This is for the region, but at the same time, it will have connection to India as well, so that India platform also needs to be established. That's why here, this is the one, what we are doing now. India is, so sir, you know that GCOE, you are already board member, Global Sanitation Center for Excellence, GSCOE, right? We already established, this is not we, PSA, Principal Scientific Advisor, established this, and we are supporting them to really be like the platform for too many things work, right? You are, that's why you are part of it. So this is government body, actually. We will have laboratory from here, also here. So all those things is already established here. We are working for this. We have also the cross-learning. This is something in this mandate as well, that how we learn, like the regional collaboration exchange can happen, and where, again, we have to do a lot. I can see so many colleagues are here from Bangladesh, Nepal, and they need to work together, and we have developed mechanism that how we really go and learn from here and there. All those mechanisms can be established. We already started that. Thank you. So, this is the thing that what really did like how can we make it cross learning and so on. I'm not discussing this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So please hold your questions. We'll come back. Once all the speakers speak, then we'll come back with the question. Please, write your questions. Yeah.
Take this session, two more speakers, open it up for questions to first three speakers. Come back after lunch and do the other three speakers, and then we'll continue. Okay? So everyone gets some time.
Yes. Okay, okay. So now I'll be inviting Mr. Arne Panesar. He is from GIZ, driving the WASH initiative, and also he is the head of the Susanna network. So please, sir.
Hi, everybody. Let me see if I can. Yes. What do I mean by this? Yeah, so that's, maybe it becomes clearer here. You see a fish and you see a squirrel? Yes. So what's the idea? Why should cities go from fishes to squirrels? Maybe it's becoming clearer now if you see that there's a lung and that there's a gill. So the fish uses a lot of water to get a little bit of oxygen and has to stay in the water and as well pollutes the water it's in. So there cannot be too many fishes in the water. And it will use a lot of water and the water management that the squirrel is having is quite different. There's just a humid layer on the lung. So they need much less water to do a job. So similarly, we have to have a different water management in cities. We have to be more careful. We have to think about how can we be innovative. And coming to the topic of our conclave here, we need more circularity. We need it in water, but we need it as well if it comes to organic wastes. We need it in all materials. And to achieve that, we need more innovation, and we saw that. And to have innovation really being useful, we need policy that can enable innovation. And as Roshan just said, we need the other part of it. We're not just, the technology alone won't help us. And we heard it, I think, many times already, technology is there. I give an example a little bit out of the way, and it's not a silver bullet, it's biochar. It's pyrolysis, 550 degrees. It's an exotherm process. So once the process is started, because you put in organic material and in a sense you burn it, you don't need additional energy. And in the end, some of the carbon is kept in the biochar. So you have a climate negative process. So, okay, you need organic matter for it. Usually it's wood chips. And whatever organic matter is there should be done to the best next use. So if it's possible to feed it to other animals or to compost it, you should not do biochar. But my thinking is that some of the fecal sludges might be fitting to become for biochar. And as I'm seeing that organic matter will be more and more scarce, like many other materials, if you take a pit or a septic tank, which has been not touched for 20 years, most of the material has transformed from organic matter to methane and polluted the climate. But other sources might be suitable, and that's just one example. And you'll get out a net negative technology, and you get many other good things. If you feed it cows, there'll be less methane from the cows. If you put it into a biogas plant, it will function better. If you combine it with compost, it will definitely increase the yield in quite some extent. So I'm putting this example because most of the co-benefits are absolutely not in sanitation. They're outside of it. But to achieve some of the things we want to achieve, we have to look into the co-benefits, and we need the policies, we need the whole settings that they actually can honor the co-benefits, that these can be driving forces, which is not easy, but well, I think we don't have an easy task. I think nobody thinks that. Okay, so then we would drive a transition towards resource recovery. You can see On the right, you need diagnostic elements, you need roles and responsibilities, and so on. And if you do that well, then you would even come to a circular economy approach, where biochar would be one small example. That's a good publication from 2020, Sanitation and Wastewater Atlas, where it's all detailed out. And I think we spoke about some of the elements already in the earlier contributions. 3 short case studies. This is the house I'm living in, near to the Black Forest. We wanted to make it an affluent, a house with no wastewater effluent. So we had gray water treatment, a very miniature thing for 20 households. It worked. Problem was we were connecting as well the kitchen sink, and so the organic loads that is coming if somebody throws something into the kitchen sink was a problem. And we had a research project going with it, and we stopped it because actually we have clean water from the Black Forest. We just opened the tap. There's hardly any pumping energy, and the energy you need to treat the gray water is more energy than if you open the tap. So it was a research project, which then there next you see that the rainwater is harvested on the roof and as well brought back into the ground. And the other one is that we had vacuum toilets and had the idea of a biogas plant. Our industry partner went bankrupt, but we had 20 years experiences of biogas, small vacuum systems. And many people looked at it, and as well, not only here, but as well in many cities currently in Europe, they're thinking that the sewer system is maybe a fossil technology because it needs too much water. So they have to think differently. And we saw that again in presentations earlier, that you look at rainwater, you look what's the housing giving, you look at gray water, and you look at black water, and you have different technologies. Again, in the case of Hamburg, they needed, and Sunita mentioned it, they needed as well some more carbon. They had enough nitrogen and phosphorus. So they were thinking, okay, can we get Hamburg? We're the city of Hamburg. In my house, it's 20 adults trying to make a sort of NGO thing. Here it's the city. They couldn't get from the greenery, the waste greenery, because they just did the calculation for a composting plant. So they wanted all their scrubs for that plant. That was the business model. So what they did now is that under the utility where sort of the restaurants, and if they have oil which they have used, which they have to throw, they have to not throw it but give it, and that's the oil they can take, that they could take to optimize the functioning of the biogas plant. So again, even in the city of Frankfurt, they have difficulties. This is a nice idea, but then if you want to put it into practice beyond sectors, there are so many things you have to look at. That's the district there. It's not 20 people, it's more like 2,000 people. And some people know Regina Dube in the center because she was working for some time here in India and was functional in that. This is Nashik, another example which some of you might know, where sort of wastewater and organic waste was collected together, put into a biogas plant, and the slurry then after that used for agriculture. A project that went on very long. In the final meeting that we had, NABARD was saying, maybe we could finance these kind of projects in 20 cities. Not because they're a silver bullet, not because they're easy, but again, they're bringing together different sectors, and that's what we have to learn. We'll not solve the problem if we just go narrow on one line, and that's why I'm mentioning it here. How long does it take? We had that already, that I agree, in 3 years a lot has happened. But if you start from scratch, that's GIZ was working for 30 years with Lusaka, and first, if there is no Lusaka Water and Sewage Company, then you have to form it. And we had it in the slide from Roshan as well, that this enabling environment, it's time tapping, it's institution building, and technology is only useful if you have that surrounding it. Here it took 30 years. The slide from Japan, it was more like, it started in 1870 or something and at different periods. So it's that's the task ahead, and it's good that the government is supportive and sees this, but I think that's the thing that we have to do in parallel. Then there's the African Sanitation Policy Guideline, which can help that if you don't have the policies in place, you have sort of an idea, So I think a number of African countries can now benefit from this work. I think this is really a work well done. And in India, we have since 2008 the National Urban Sanitation Policy, which is currently, maybe it's a slightly sewer oriented, and now it's revised. We had sort of the new policy, which really is as well a step forward. Here, I would think, is it process oriented, or is it a DPR and you get the money and you forgot what you promised, or is it binding in a master plan for the city? Has it a perspective of 30 years, or is it just something short which helps you to? Yes, but I think it was a good start. If you compare the other picture where you had nothing, that's already a good start. It's currently revised. There are other things coming up to it. But here as well, then it's more than how binding it is in broader other master plans for the city. And does it have a long-term perspective? Because if it's not having a long-term perspective, the benefits between energy, water, greenery will not come even into the picture. So then how can you sort of address them if you don't have that more long-term perspective? Few publications, we have tools, approaches, and what is the system border? Is it just one sector? Is it many sectors? What do we take into account? On the left side, you have more sort of the technology and physical part of things. On the right side, what are the problems? Why are they as they are? And what is the necessary, again, policy and enabling environment? So I think we are lucky we have the shit flow diagram that tells you what are the problems. And we have the city service delivery assessment, which is an idea how to find out that why is it as it is, and that can guide you as well to have the right policies. If you have a rich policy environment like you have it in India, then the bigger task is it are these tools fitting in, or are they disturbing an already existing complex system, and how to fit them in, if at all, that they really make it added value. Climate, and that was as well mentioned by the speakers before, is another system border. We have here sort of the ECAM tool to see what's the energy demand. The latest study is the landscape study, as well organized by financed by the Gates Foundation and by Juliet and others. I think that's as well something to be taken into account more and more. It's good that we can, for example, use the SFD and the CSDA as a starting point. We have to focus on co-benefits of sanitation systems. We have to go beyond the sanitation sector. We need applied research, a playing field for innovation, and we need time. I'm happy that so many things happened in 3 years, but if we don't have a longer perspective, nothing will work. And that all should contribute to a politically agreed vision for an urban future. So we need democracy to agree on an urban future that we want. Thank you very much. Last not least, the squirrel. Why the squirrel? One more thing. How should these policies be? The European squirrel, if winter comes, collects nuts and hides them. And during winter, it crawls out and finds some of these nuts. And maybe the winter is short, it doesn't find all, then trees grow. More nuts. So a good enabling environment and policy takes human nature into account, so that if humans are humans, this will work. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much, Arne. Now I will request Eva Marie to come. She is Program Coordinator of Fecal Sludge Management Alliance.
Thank you, Subrata. Good afternoon. I'm presenting on behalf of FSM Alliance, how we are changing the informing policy and into practice within FSM. So at a glance, I'm going to talk about 3 things: who we are and what we do in the FSM sector, and the 2 focuses that we have currently that is related to policy and regulations, and how we are optimizing the existing tools to work for us. So we are a member-based network, as you might be aware, and we offer we support the FSM sector by strengthening the sector by providing our members with mentoring and facilities for peer-to-peer support and updates through various channels. Our second focus then is on advocacy, where we articulate about how FSM is actually part within the CWISE project, and it's essential that it's appropriately recognized as a key component of urban sanitation. And we also aim to raise the profile of FSM in its own right to attract resources and professionals needed to build up the sector. Last but not least, we are aiming to provide the support to the FSM sector with tools such as the toolbox by FSMA, and in future also development of a standard within the FSM, which can then mediate in industry. We also mediate in industry level dialogues with major stakeholders, and in a very practical way, to open doors to create for a legal and regulatory space for industry and credibility with the financial institutions. So how do we do this? Well, we have identified within the FSM industry what it needs. Having clear standards under policy and regulations is one of which. The other is planning and guide for developing a financing product, and interlinkages between developers and manufacturers with service providers under planning and finance equipment and infrastructure. Thirdly, mobilizing the business development and organizing training facilities as a part of the robust engagement and communication within the sector. So optimization of the toolbox by FSMA and the global FSM standards are our current and future focus within our work. We come to the what we mean by a global FSM standard. So if the FSM, within our theory of change, so like if FSM sector had a flywheel, as you see in the picture, we would see many changes that are large and small will build towards a momentum towards the FSM sector's growth and self-sufficiency, and transform the sector from disorganized and underperforming, if you will, to more formal and regulated and active in the long term. So the global standard that we are proposing will then address the needs and challenges of the FSM sector while launching the sector on a growth trajectory and making the progress on the SDGs. So we saw the four points earlier on the flywheel. Just elaborate on what it means along the timeline of a flywheel. So why do we need a standard? So one of the basic reasons will be establishing a common language that will unify in terms of terminology for products, materials, means, methods, processes, etc. This then enables two important contributors to market growth. One is the market actors, such as utilities and government, will gain the criteria that they need to make the leap from concept to practice. They will then know how to then assess the existing systems and address the gaps that are present, and how to report the performance of their stakeholders. The second thing with the common language is the people and organization can avoid miscommunications and confusion and conflict. So this is important in tender processes and terms of reference, and in short, we reduce a lot of friction. A common language basically lubricates the market activity. The second point, that is the sector data improves in quality and consistency. So by setting performance matrices, the standard makes uniform adoption of the metrics possible, and thereby more consistent data collection and evaluation could occur. The improved data quantity and consistency will then could attract more further funding and spurs the growth within the sector to the next level. And then when we are reaching to this stage, we can see the standards create more business opportunities for market actors. So the performance expectations for each products and services are established by the standards. And as utilities and governments issue tender, they can use within the requirements that are tied to the standards, and the companies then see a clear incentive for diversifying their offerings within the sector. So then using the standards to then demonstrate unique value proposition for their products and services to the customer, saying, hey, we are standard, FSM standard, A-level, and we offer so-and-so within our product. So the fourth one then we have is then sector leader and policymakers adopt a standard for policymaking. We propose that once the standard is established and its utility is proven, policymakers at national, state, and local levels will find it easier to use this standard to write policies rather than create their own FSM policies and rules, which will vary from region to region, state to state, and then thereby driving a standardized FSM management practices more quickly. So how do they all fit in within each other? We see that within the FSM industry, the policies will set a high level expectations, while the regulations set the boundaries. We say that the standards will assign quantifiable requirements, which are checked regularly and will feed back into the regulations and policies. So what kind of standards are we talking about? Standard that can be adopted at different levels, so that's the global, national, and local, and has the criteria and parameters for management and assessment of performance in terms similar to quality standards like the 9001 or 14001, along with the different levels for management. So what is our characteristics of the global FSM standards? We work with the existing standards, build on it, apply it across the value chain, the FSM value chain, the sanitation value chain, and which is globally and locally relevant. So it can be adapted in different scenarios, broadly accepted, and has lots of stakeholders involved. So such a standard could then have focused on FSM quality and risk management. Next, we come to the toolbox for FSMA. You all might be very well be aware of this toolbox. We have a set of tools within its open source platform, and we have the SFT and CSTA, as we talked about earlier by Avnay, and it hosts an ecosystem of different tools that are needed for ecosystem, for the FSM ecosystem planning for both planners, engineers, etc. So last year, we did a short survey on what is missing, what are people thinking in terms of using the tools that we have, and then we collected feedback on what is the requirement. So it's like adapting the tools to our needs, and we came back with addition of a survey tool, and then also independently, an independent consultant. You notice that although we have a large resource within our knowledge repository, it's not giving a clear understanding of when the project is completed, what are the lessons learned, and how they could use it. So using these two learnings from last year, we of course launched the survey tool. It's not limited to FSM or sanitation, but also offers a customizable questionnaire with mobile application. Then we also partnered with JG Africa, who developed this method called the Genie method that applies the principle of continuous improvements in quality management system on the knowledge repository within the FSM toolbox. So it uses the plan, do, check, act, And for each project, at the stages of beginning of the project, or when the project is completed and you're taking when you're doing a landscape and seeing what is existing. So at different stages of a project, this method could be used to understand from where you have to start your next project. So what is it that you have to do at the current stage? So it enables lessons from the implement project to be applied more quickly. So these are some of the steps that are in our effort to tilt that flywheel that I showed you earlier. We encourage you to collaborate with us either in the standard or use methods that are already existing in different fields like project management to such as this in your own work that comes to within the sector in FSM. So we've had lots of success in applying this ourselves. And with that, I am.
Thank you, Eva. So I request you to take your seat here. So as suggested, three of us who have presented, Roshanji, please, Arnaji, please come here. Let's take couple of questions and then we'll break for, I request my friends to take the mic. Please take your seat. Yes.
Colleagues for excellent presentation. Yeah. Yeah. Since this session, myself, Yusuf, I am from UNICEF India office. Since we are discussing largely in this session, of course, knowledge management standard regulations. So just two submissions that one is that for Roshanji that under Ministry of Jal Shakti, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation has already set up a Center of Excellence for Water and Sanitation in Calcutta, in Joka. So there is always a chance to co-locate because we often work in silos like urban rural, but in India, we cannot afford to work in the silos anymore in the urban rural. So we can always, your regional center can always work with the India center. And on this, madam, on the standard and regulation, all this part, the major problem, I don't know if any municipal council members or CEOs are here or not. We see that they suffer mainly from the trained human resources and also the capacity or the protocol to procure the technologies at the local level. And that has been the challenge. The how part is most important. It is not for the bigger municipal corporations. Smaller ULBs, urban rural bodies, or certain kind of a Nagar council, Nagar Parishad. So if in this entire deliberation, something that we can also come out that how they can procure, there is a lot of money, but they cannot absorb the money. So that is a major issue, unless it comes to the James portal. And also the standard person is there, Chaurasia sir is there. He knows the CPHHO manual, but I don't know whether the CPHHO manual still speaks about the standards of the FSTPs. Yeah, you are coming at. So we also need to see from the perspective of a chief officer or you will be that what are the challenges they are facing to implement this program. So that will be very useful. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. That was not a question.
Yeah. So thank you so much for a very important question that what you're talking about. We all know that how to change that all the policy, everything, language to the really people who are working the ground that need to translate. We discussed that a lot also with several occasions. Just near to you, who is there? Utkarsh, no? Utkarsh. So we are working with the organization like the AILSG. We are going to start that, and we already have established partners with the administrative staff college, and also in the region, we are working with the municipal association of Bangladesh, Nepal, and all these are our really champions to whom we need to work. Without working with them, we cannot be success. That's why Center of Excellency means that. So how can we also work together so that we can develop the capacity building program for them and the languages, what is put into the place in the policy act and regulation, that need to understand by those after, right? So that's why we have a lot to do. And I agree with you that a lot of acceleration is established here and there. We need to really combine. So that is also one of our agenda we are discussing. So once the one center is activated, so how can we bring all the centers together? That definitely we will be discussing that. Saurashya sir, maybe in next board meeting, we will discuss that as well. So maybe I would like to request you to.
I'm going to ask one, not question, but suggestion to you only. I will first congratulate and thank a lot of support that BMGF is giving to us, and it has basically activated that sector. One request I would like to make, because already 400-500 crore or something, that exact amount I don't know. It is being poured by BMGF and lot of activities are going. In fact, a sanitation has been vacant. But what is happening, in turn, BMGF has engaged so many partners to help that. That is very fine. Without capacity, we cannot do. But my request is within BMGF, some 4-5 good intellectual people should be there to coordinate, because as states, 36 states and UT in the country, they have different wavelength. These organizations also have different wavelength. And I'm not worried if 400-500 crore you are giving. I'm more worried that right now 50,000 crore rupees already committed and it is available. That should not be spoiled because of this. That is only my concern. Because so many activism is there. So easily I am requesting you that please see that if that is not seen, then at least you bring all partners, let healthy discussion should be taken, so that country at some point of time, because of lack of dialogue, it should not end up that whosoever is willing what they are doing, and ultimately it results somewhere that intended objective is not met in spite of having highest political will and lot of resources. This is my request. Second, just 1 minute. Panesar sir say I would like to request. Very good examples and these things you have given, and one very excellent point you have made, that long-term perspective also should be built. This will again come with capacity, because the moment you are talking, I understand GIZ, we are interacting with them, how their vision, planning, other things is there. That spirit should be inculcated here also. It is not a today business. Huge opportunities are there in the country. There is no dearth of work, no dearth of activities. But set that vision so that in long term, whatever we are going to create, what efforts we are putting, that is going to help country. So definitely thanks for you, and thanks to you and all other. I hope they have taken that good message. One thing I would like to request, that the example of Zambia that you mentioned, I would have loved, as you mentioned example of Germany, have you mentioned example of France? Because often I find we see in the map, strategy also show some part of Africa, less water, they are poor people, they don't have money, and then India also falling into that. India is not Zambia, it is not Tanzania, it is not Sudan. We have plenty of fund. There is nobody to take that, absorb that, as he rightly mentioned. So water also here, average water 800, 900 ml, and many parts. Yes, ma'am. No, I'm talking about sanitation. Okay, anyway. Yes, but anyway, example should be such that it is having that progressive countries, and like that it has future and growth. So this is what I want to suggest and request, right? Thank you.
Subrata, if you may, I would like to address the comment on the standard. First of all, thank you for the query. Firstly, the standard that we're proposing is not technical standard, because there are already many ISO standards, et cetera, that are catering to that. So it's more on as a management standards, in the sense that there are, if there is some FSTP, for example, running, how well is it run? What is the quality of what is coming? If it's running like at 100% level, it gets like an A+. You know how in school you get a star? It's like basically giving star, you're doing well. So which then in turn gives also not just the FSTP. It could be any along the service chain, any of the stakeholders that are involved along the service chain, any of the products they're creating, any of the services they're providing. So it's more like a management standard. I hope that clarifies a bit.
Hello, I'm Sujaya. I have a question for Eva. This is regarding the FSM toolbox, and I just wanted to find out what are your plans for disseminating the toolbox in India, in Bangladesh, in Nepal? Because I've worked on toolbox, and so obvious question.
Thank you. So we have the toolbox currently as it stays. We have done smaller projects within Africa, of course, rightly. So we need to do more of this activity within South Asia. And for this reason, I would look at PMGF and put some pressure there. So, but we would like to continue having more and more uptake on this matter. So we will engage in our, also with the Genie method, we'd like to engage more and more partners to come up and see how we can make it better. You know, because Toolbox is not a standalone, like it's done because as we evolve, we change with the CBIs, we need to add more tools. How can we evolve what we already have to work better? So yeah, we are looking into it. And as it comes, we will be, of course, engaging with all of you here. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I thought it would be great for me to probably give an opinion. My name's Chaiwem Shauko Sanaser from Zambia. So I mean, I appreciate the points that were brought to the table. And I just wanted to add that, you know, we're here today to be able to share a little bit about what the interventions are like in Zambia as well. From the discussions in the morning, it's very clear to see the similarities. I think even more clear than our friends in the West. I think these experiences that are happening in India are very familiar to a lot of what is happening in Africa. And some of you were also at the FSM7, and I'm sure you can agree to that. So I just want to emphasize that during the 3 days that we're here, we should really focus on this South-to-South engagement that has not really been a priority, so that we're able to learn across continents on how to really solve our own global South challenges. So thank you very much for this opportunity that we're able to share. And I hope there can be more of such engagements across the regions. Thank you.
Maybe one more question?
Everyone is hungry. It's the right time to break.
Then, okay, if you want to respond to his point, no. No, it's okay. He was happy I talked about. If you want to have, yes, okay. Can say, I'd say, a two say. So you got it. Last is okay.
Sorry. So actually, I mean, it's related to a slide from Eva, your presentation. But all of you could maybe think out aloud on it. So it was about this point that you made that, you know, you need to set standards and baselines, and accordingly market pricing and all also gets aligned to it. So I personally, from experience, have felt that in the Indian markets, like with, you know, the desludging processes and all, there are local prices which are in the informal scheme of things, right? And these local pricing do not align to standards and regulations. So I have a feeling over the last 2-3 years that standardization is kind of conflicting with the informal sector and their sense of how to price services. So what's your opinion on that? If you can, I mean, any one of you or all of you?
I'll start it off, maybe. Yeah. Thank you, Avinash, for the question. So I do want to clarify again that the standard we talked about, the pricing, when it comes to pricing in the non-sewage sector for emptying, it will be like that one emptier has excellent service. He gets customer reviews 5-star all the time. And he was like, we have 100% satisfaction with all the customers, and the other one's like 2-star. Who will you opt for, right? So it's more like a management standard that gives like rating based on the service and the providing what other service that is provided. Of course, if you want to compare directly, it'll be like the LEED standards, like the green building standards. So similarly, like a building is built according to norms, then it gets the green building rating. So similarly, with that said, of course, there is will be local and change challenges that we need to be addressed. That is adaptation of the said management standard to the local conditions. So with that, I would then hand over.
Okay, so just what we are thinking. I was as well, I looked at that slide, and for me it was how important it is that we have a language at all. For taboo topics, often you don't have a language. So is there a language, is it an agreed language there? It was fundamental that in 2007-8, the Swiss Research Institute brought out the sanitation systems compendium, where there were defined elements along the sanitation chain. If you go slightly more back, even the sanitation chain wasn't there. It was a plan, it was not a chain. So to think in the idea of that chain was new, to have the different system elements there was new, and with the compendium it was defined. Now after that, the compendium, the sheet flow diagrams use the same definition. Then there are compendiums for sanitation in emergencies, climate and sanitation, resource recovery. They all use the same definitions. So slowly, we have a common language. What is a septic tank? And I think that's quite a question. And the better this is defined, the better as well on the local level. If you say, I'm building a septic tank, you have a reference what actually it is. And maybe from there it goes into pricing. But I think for me, striking was this broader picture.
Thank you very much. I'm Charles Nwagawa. I'm from Uganda in East Africa. And listening to all the presentations since morning, actually mine touches a little bit of the first ones. I have had a lot of this policy and practice shifts, and everything looks really nice. And I think there's clearly a lot of progress in this area. However, there's something I'm missing, but maybe it will come along, or it was not planned in this meeting. But I have not seen a fecal sludge treatment plant functioning in Uganda, and we have so many, if it is not run by a utility. What I mean, a large utility, National Water and Sewage Corporation, and normally they run systems where there is some sort of sewage also goes into the same system. But I have failed to see a fecal sludge treatment plant that is functioning, that is not run by a large utility. Several of them are there, but they have totally failed. If you come to Uganda, you'll see they are there. Smaller ones, 5 cubic meters per day. The business model is actually not able to run this system. So I'll be happy if I can learn more, maybe in these 3 days. But the other thing that I can see is that obviously when we link to wastewater and even water supply, for instance, in the case of Uganda, we have comprehensive detailed design manuals. So any engineer, provided they use the manual for designing a water treatment plant, for a water supply system, for a wastewater supply system, they will get it right. We are lacking manuals for the design of fecal sludge treatment plants. We are having engineers who are trained to design wastewater treatment plants. They are designing fecal sludge treatment plants, and they are getting it right, and things are not functioning. In this regard, therefore, I don't know if any university, either in India or somewhere, has designed or fully prepared a curriculum which is not focusing on wastewater, but is focusing on the design of fecal sludge treatment plants. Of course, I know there is the Global Graduate School for Sanitation doing work, but I think there's more that we need to do. And if we can get to share some of these curriculum, which are talking about specifically design of fecal sludge treatment plants, they will help us so that we can also improve our situations. Thank you very much. It might not be a question, but maybe kind of comments.
Yes, but I think I can react on that, it has become quite clear. There's from EAVAC as well, the largest study on decentralized systems in India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, I think 500 systems. And the outcome was, if it's not connected to a governing structure, it's sad, but it's not working mainly. If you look back as sort of ex post. Same in Uganda, let's say the broader NGO sector has now this all systems go. And the all systems go approach is actually going beyond the single infrastructure and looking into the enabling environment. And that's the title of our meeting here, and that was emphasized in a number of the contributions here. So I think you're completely right. And I think here I can underline that as well. It's a little bit, the sanitation systems compendium is purely technical. Now the term which is coming from at least some of the NGOs, all systems go, you talk about a completely different system. You talk about what we earlier called the enabling environment and sort of policy and so on. You don't want to go to lunch, it seems. A food for thought. Okay, that sounds like lunch already. Okay, I think you have the last word then, huh?
The morning sessions from Sunita, the minister, etc. I mean, ministers always give you the juice, of how good things are going. They never tell you where things are going wrong. Yes, they never tell you where things are going wrong. So Sunita asked the question, we have a trajectory of building sanitation. We have 96% coverage. Only 40% of it works. India will get there, don't worry. It's coming. The reason being is people are misinterpreting fecal sludge management. It's not an engineering solution. Okay? And that's what India is doing. You can build 1,000 FSTPs. If you don't fix the regulations, you don't fix the cohort of specialist training, etc., you're going to end up with 40% of them working. I'll remind you after 20 years that this is what is going to happen. So the thing is, central governments, municipalities, they all design in the British model to build infrastructure. They're bloody good. They're not designed to manage systems. That's why in the developing world, we fail. So I just want to take this piece, Sunita pitched it there, and it's a food for thought when you have this discussion, is have a relook at how your train is running, whether you can slow it down, change the pathway, or let it go to the end of the line and get into a crash course.
So let
just
me
a
give the
reminder.
last word on this, and then we break for lunch. So I think, Jay, you raised a very important, and that's the focus of this 3 days, because I think the train is running, and I think we must not slow down the train. There's a huge momentum today, both in India and I see in other parts of the world as well. This is not, but the bottom line is this is not about technology. It doesn't matter what technology you choose. The FSTP technology or the STP technology or a co-treatment, they're just treatment plants. The question is, how do you design the system so that it accounts for the affordability, the inclusion of large numbers of people? How does it account for the regulation that is required to make sure that the system works? That needs capacity, that needs policy, and then you need to link this to the larger issue of wastewater, reuse, and water. And that then gets linked to the circular issue, whether it is green space, all that gets connected. It's in the city, the heart of the city. The more wastewater, the more lakes, ponds, sponges you have, the more spaces you have also for wastewater reuse. The more green areas you have, the more spaces you have for compost management. And waste, whether it is wet waste from households or whether it is excreta, the question, we will have to start looking at it together. So I agree with you completely, and that's the focus right now. Whether it's India, whether it's any other country, the focus today is we've got a momentum going now to make sure that that momentum succeeds. We don't want white elephants in this country. We do not want another generation of STPs, this time called FSTPs, but they are working under capacity, or they are not treating and they're not reusing their water or their sludge. We do not want that. So I think that's the task in front of us for the next 2 days. So thank you very much. That is perfect food for thought. And now it's lunch. Thank you, Subrat. Sorry, I took over your thing. I just wanted to. Thank you.
So in 1 hour, we'll come back.